Hello everyone, myself Shantanu Chaudhary from Vision Gate. So today we will start a different subject called theory of machines. Okay. So in the last few lectures we have discussed about engineering mechanics, the various aspects. So from now onwards we will start off with theory of machines. So let's understand what do we mean by a machine. Okay. So a machine is a device. Let's say this is a device. Okay. So a machine is a device. It might have some different components. So it takes in input. Some input. Okay. It takes some input in the form of force or energy. Okay. So this machine is a device which will take up input in the form of force or energy. Then inside this machine, it will change this force or energy. It will change, transmit or direct, and gives us a different output. Okay, it will give us a different output in the form of force and energy, which will be different from this input. Okay, which will be different from this input, so that a specific objective can be met. Okay, so that a specific objective can be met. So what do we understand by a machine? So a machine is a device which will take up input in the form of force or energy. Then it will change, it will transmit, or it will direct. Okay, a machine is a device which will take input in the form of force or energy. Then it will change, transmit or direct to a particular output, so that a specific objective can be reached. Okay, so if a device which is taking up force and it is changing the force and giving up a specific output, so that a specific objective can be reached, is called as a machine. Okay, so for an example, let's say we consider a wind turbine blade. So a wind turbine is something like this. So it is a device like this. Okay, so a wind turbine blade is something like this. Okay, so it has 3 blades. So what happens is that its input is the fluid flow energy, right? Its input is the fluid flow mechanical energy. Okay, so this device has certain components like the mechanical components, some electrical components, some electronics components. So all this system will constitute a machine. Okay, so the input is in the form of a mechanical energy like the fluid flow energy. Okay, and in the output we get electricity. And how it does? It has some mechanical components, some electrical, some electronic components. Okay, so this whole system is called as a machine. Okay, so it is irrespective whether there is mechanical component, electrical component or some other. This is irrespective. What we know is that it takes up input in the form of force or energy, and gives us output in the form of force or energy, so that a specific objective can be reached. Okay, so in the case of wind turbines, we need electricity. So it takes up input in the form of energy, fluid flow energy, and gives us electrical energy. Okay, and how it does? It has some mechanical, electrical components in between. Okay, so the whole system is called as a machine. Okay, so now let's understand what do we mean by a mechanism. Okay, so what do we mean by a mechanism? So now till now we have understood what is machine. So let's now understand what is mechanism. So in a machine there may be several mechanical components. So there may be several mechanical parts. This is a mechanical part. So let's say this is the electrical part, some other. So the whole system is called as a machine. It will take up some input, then it will change or direct or transmit and give us an output, so that an objective can be reached. This is a machine. Okay, so a mechanism is a subset of this machine. So only the mechanical component, this mechanical component of a machine, is called as a mechanism. Okay, so in a particular machine, there will be some mechanical components, some movable parts. Okay, so the assembly of these movable parts. So mechanism is a assembly of movable parts. Okay, assembly of movable parts with a known or desired motion. Okay, so what is the difference between a machine and a mechanism? So a mechanism is the mechanical component or mechanical part of the machines. Okay, so the machine will have some mechanical components. So the mechanical components are are called as mechanisms. Okay, so how do we distinguish between a mechanism and a machine? So whenever we have force or energy as an input and output, we call this as a machine, and whenever we have motion as an input or output, or output, we will call this as a mechanism. Okay, so a mechanism is basically a assembly of rigid bodies or assembly of movable parts, okay, so as to direct motion. Okay, so each of the parts will have a known motion. Okay, so what are the different types? Okay, what are the different types of analysis that we will study in this subject? Let's see. So basically in this subject we have two parts. There are two parts to this subject. The first one is the synthesis. Okay, so the first part of this subject is the synthesis. So what do we understand by synthesis? So what do we understand by synthesis? So synthesis is basically the design of a mechanism. Okay, so it is basically the design of a mechanism. Okay, so it is basically the design of a mechanism. Let's say that we know the input. Let's say we know the input in the form of some piston movement or something, some displacements. Okay, so let's say we know the input and we know the output. We want a rotary motion. Let's say a rotating motion. So how should we assemble each and every parts of a mechanism so that a motion can be converted? Okay, this is what we study in synthesis. Let's say for an example, let's say we have a displacement motion. Okay, let's consider a block. We know we can give an input like this. We can move this block. Okay, by some external means we can move this block. Okay, so the direction of movement is in this direction. So we want, as an output, we want a direction of motion in this direction. Okay, as an input we can give direction of motion in this direction. As an output, we want the direction of motion to be in this direction. Okay, so how should we assemble the rigid bodies so that an input given like this gives us an output like this? Okay, I hope this is clear now. How the rigid bodies can be assembled? So we can have several types of rigid bodies connected here. So how these rigid bodies will be assembled so that giving an input like this gives us an output like this? This is what we study in synthesis. Okay, so let's say if we consider a link like this, if we attach a link like this. Okay, if we attach a link like this, so there is a guide like this and we have attached a link like this. Now if we give a motion of this block like this, so this block will move in the upward direction. Okay, so this assembly, how this system is connected, how each of the rigid bodies should be connected, this is the question that is answered in what we call as synthesis. So basically it is the design of a mechanism. Okay, so it is the design of a mechanism so that we know the input, we know the output. A specific input is known and a specific output is known. Okay, but how the intermediate parts will be assembled so that this output is achieved from this input is what we study in synthesis. Okay, so there is another aspect of this subject. This aspect is what we call as analysis. Okay, so from gate point of view, we will study basically the analysis part. Okay, so from gate point of view, we will study mostly the analysis part. The synthesis part is not in curriculum, so we will study the analysis part. Okay, so what do we understand by analysis? So once this mechanism has been designed, we are interested in the kinematic and kinetic quantities of the machinery or the mechanism rather. Okay, let's say what do we understand by this? We are interested in the kinematic and kinetic quantities. Kinetic quantities in the mechanism. That means in analysis we will learn this kinematic quantities means displacement, then velocity, acceleration, position, velocity, and position, then acceleration. Okay, like orientation, etc. Okay, so these are the kinematic quantities, and kinetic quantities are the forces, moments. Okay, so in analysis, once the mechanism has been designed, we will be interested in knowing what are the velocities, acceleration, and the displacement of each of the individual parts. Okay, during the operation of this mechanism, what are the velocities, acceleration, displacement achieved by each of the individual parts. Okay, similarly we are also interested in knowing what are the forces acting on these parts. Let's say what are the forces acting on this block, or this link, sorry, this rigid body. Okay, what are the forces during this operation of this mechanism? What are the forces acting on different objects or different bodies? We are interested to find out. So such kind of answers are found using analysis. Okay, we are interested in displacement, velocity. Once the mechanism is designed by synthesis part, then we will move on to the analysis. We will be interested in knowing what is the displacement, what is the position, what is the acceleration of each and individual parts during the operation of this mechanism. Okay, similarly we will be interested to know what are the forces, what are the moments. Once we know the forces and moments, we can design this, right? We can find out the thickness, we can find out the dimensions of this each and every components, right? So this kinetic analysis is required. Similarly kinematic analysis is required. So for kinetic analysis we need accelerations, right? To use the Euler's laws, Newton's laws, we will be requiring the accelerations and velocities. This will be found out from the kinematic analysis. Okay, so first kinematic analysis is required. After that, once we know these quantities, then we move on to the kinetic quantities. Okay, then we find out these forces, moments. Once these forces and moments are known, we can find out the dimensions of these rigid bodies. Okay, dimensions of each and every component of the mechanism. Okay, so from gate point of view, we will basically study analysis. Okay, so in analysis, we will initially start off with the kinematic part. We will start off with the kinematics part and later on move on to the kinetic part. Okay, initially we will start off with the kinematics part. We will study the velocity analysis, displacement analysis, position analysis, all these things we will study, and then eventually we will move on to the kinematic part. Okay, so this is the basically the structure of this subject. Okay, so we have two parts, we have two things, mechanisms and machines. We know that machine is the whole system, so we will study only the mechanism part of the machine. Okay, we are not interested in the complete machinery. There may be electrical parts also. We are not interested in that. We are interested only the heart of the machine, that is the mechanical part of the machine. Okay, that is the mechanism. So we are interested in the mechanism. A mechanism has two types of studies, synthesis and analysis. Okay, we will study the analysis part, and in analysis part we have two types, kinematic studies and kinetic studies. Eventually we will see both of these. Okay, so now let's understand what are the different types of mechanisms. Okay, so mechanism, classifications of mechanism. Basically a mechanism can be classified in two types. First one is the planar mechanism. Okay, planar mechanism. Okay, and another is the spatial mechanism. Okay, first one is the planar mechanism, the other one is the spatial mechanism. So what do we mean by planar mechanism? So in a planar mechanism, let's say we have a different collection of rigid bodies. Let's say different collection of rigid bodies. Okay, so we have a, let's say, an assembly of rigid bodies, different types of rigid bodies. Okay, so if throughout the operation of this mechanism, let's say throughout the operation of this mechanism, all the rigid bodies has motion in a single plane, then we will call this as a planar mechanism. Okay, so it is a strict criteria that all of the rigid bodies throughout the motion, okay, all of the components throughout the motion has to have a motion only in a single plane, then only we will call this as a planar mechanism. Okay, whereas in spatial mechanism, the idea is that it will also be a combination of rigid bodies, let's say. Okay, it will also be a combination of some rigid bodies. Okay, but the idea is that if any one of the component, any one of the rigid body throughout its motion, even for once, goes out of the plane, it will be called as a spatial mechanism. Okay, like robotic arms, are there, many of these in car industries, automotive industries. lots of robotic arms are used. These are spatial mechanisms. Okay, so what is spatial mechanism? Spatial mechanism. The spatial mechanism is a mechanism such that throughout the course of its operation, if any one of the rigid body has a motion out of the plane for any instant of time. Okay, out of the plane motion, out of plane motion of any component, okay, out of plane motion of any component, okay, at any instant of time. Okay, throughout the motion, if any object has a motion out of the plane motion of any component at any instant of time. Okay, at any instant of time, if any object has a motion in the out of the plane direction, then we will call this as a spatial mechanism. Okay, whereas in a planar mechanism, all the components will have motion only along a single plane throughout the operation. Okay, then we will call this as a planar mechanism. Okay, so from gate point of view, we will mostly learn planar mechanisms. Okay, we will not learn spatial mechanism. This is beyond our scope. Okay, so now let's understand what do we mean by links. Okay, what do we mean by links? A link is basically any rigid body in a mechanism. Okay, it is very important. A link is any rigid body. Any rigid body in a mechanism is a link. Any rigid body. A mechanism is basically an assembly of rigid bodies, right? So that it directs motion. We have learned earlier. What is mechanism? A mechanism is an assembly of rigid bodies which directs motion. Okay, which directs motion, right? So any rigid body in the mechanism is called as a link. Okay, so we should emphasize on this term, rigid body. Okay, a rigid body. Okay, so this is important. This terminology is important. So this is rigid body. Okay, any rigid body in a mechanism is called as a link. Why this terminology is important? It is because in a mechanism there can be other non-rigid parts also, like springs or some ropes. This kind of parts can also be there in a mechanism. Okay, so these kind of mechanisms are basically elastic bodies, right, or flexible bodies. Flexible bodies are not considered as links. Okay, in a particular mechanism, if we have any flexible bodies or elastic bodies like spring, ropes, these kind of bodies are not considered as a rigid body and will not be called as links. Okay, so a link is only a rigid body in a mechanism. When the bodies are mostly rigid, okay, are called as links. Okay, springs and all other stuffs like ropes, belts, these will not be called as a link. Okay, this will not be called as a link. Okay, so what do we understand by linkage now? Okay, the linkage is basically an assembly of rigid bodies, so as to form a closed chain. Okay, so what do we understand by linkage? A linkage is an assembly of rigid bodies so that a closed chain is formed. Then we will call this as a linkage. Okay, a link is basically a rigid body in a mechanism, and linkage is a collection of rigid bodies so that a closed chain is formed. Okay, that is called as a linkage. Okay, fine. I hope these terminologies are clear to you now. Let's move on. Now let's see what are the different types of links in a mechanism. Okay, types of links. Okay. So what are the different types of links? We will see. So first one is the binary link. Okay. So what do the first type of link is the binary link. Okay. So what do we mean by a binary link? So a binary link is nothing but a rigid body in a mechanism. In a mechanism, a rigid body which is connected to two other different rigid bodies. Okay. It can be connected by any means, just a contact or some other type of system like mechanical system or anything. But if a rigid body in a mechanism or a link in a mechanism is connected at two different points, a link in a mechanism connected at two different points, let's say here it is connected to some other body and it is connected to some other body. Okay. If a link is connected to two other different links in a mechanism at different points, then we will call this as a binary link. Okay. So a binary link is nothing but a link having connection with two different links. Link having connection with two other links. Okay. So what do we mean by a binary link? A binary link is a link in a mechanism which is connected to two other links in a mechanism. Okay. A binary link is a link having connection with two different links at two different points. Okay. Next we have what we call as the ternary link. We have what we call as the ternary link. Okay. So we have what we call as a ternary link. So what is a ternary link? A ternary link is an extension where in binary links we have two different connections at two different points. In ternary links we will have three different connections. If a particular link is connected to three other different links at three different points, then we will call this as a ternary link. Okay. A link having connection to three other different links. Okay. Three other different links at three different points, we will call this as a ternary link. Okay. Link having connection with three other different links at different points. Okay, is called as a ternary link. Okay. Now let's understand what is another type of link which is called as quaternary link. Okay. So we have learned about binary links, we have learned about ternary links, and there is another one which is called as quaternary links. Okay. So similarly, as we have extended for the ternary case, so quaternary is nothing but if we have connections at four different points. Let's say a rigid body is connected, a single rigid link is connected to four other different links at four different positions. Okay. A link having connections with four other bodies, with four other links at four different points. Okay. At four different points. Okay. So this is if a particular link is connected to four other different links at four different points, then this link will be called as a quaternary link. Okay. Now let's try to understand what do we mean by a kinematic pair. Okay, a kinematic pair. So a kinematic pair is basically a connection in a mechanism. Okay, it is basically a connection in a mechanism which permits relative motion. Okay, a connection in a mechanism which permits relative motion. A connection between links. Okay, in a mechanism which permits relative motion. permits relative motion. Okay. A connection between links in a mechanism which permits relative motion is what we call as a kinematic pair. Okay. So there are different classifications of kinematic pair which we will see right now. So in general, a kinematic pair is classified into two categories. The first one is the lower pair. Okay, lower pairs, and the other one is the higher pairs. The first one is the lower pairs and the other one is the higher pairs. Okay, so kinematic pair is classified basically into two types, the lower pairs and the higher pairs. So what do we mean by lower pairs? Okay, what do we mean by lower pairs? So if a kinematic pair has area contact, okay, we will see, eventually we will see. So if a kinematic pair has a surface area contact, then this pair will be called as a lower pair. Okay, basically any connection between two rigid bodies where the connection has a area contact. Okay, if two rigid bodies are connected in such a way in a mechanism, let's say if we have two rigid bodies which are connected in such a way that there is an area contact between them, then we will call it as a lower pair. Okay, whereas in higher pair, if there is line or point contact, okay, so if between two rigid bodies in a mechanism or two links in a mechanism, if we have line or point contact, we will classify them as a higher pair. Okay, so lower pairs are area contact, higher pairs are line or point contact. So now let's see different types of lower pairs. We have separated several types of lower pairs. We will see what are those. Let's see. So in lower pairs, the first type is what we call as the revolute pair. Okay, a revolute pair. It is generally denoted by a capital R. It is generally denoted by a capital R. Okay. So what is a revolute pair? It is generally denoted by capital R. What do we mean by a revolute pair? Let's say we have two links like this. We have two links like this. Okay, and we have this. So we have basically two links like this. Okay, and through these two links we have a pin. So there is a hole over here and one pin is passing through this. Okay, one pin is passing through these two links, which is connecting these two links. So this is basically a pin is having a area contact like throughout the circumference. It is basically type of a cylinder. So it is type of a cylindrical pin which is passing through this. So there is basically an area contact, right? So there is basically an area contact in this periphery of this circle, the periphery of this circle. So what happens is that if we keep this link held, if we keep this link held, we can move this link, right? We can rotate this link. This link can rotate about this axis, right? If we hold this link, this link can be rotated about this axis, right? So that is why this is the complete rotation type of phenomena, right? If we hold this link can rotate with respect to this axis. So this is what we call as a revolute pair. This joint is what we call as a this pair, this kinematic pair, this connection is basically called as a revolute pair. Okay. So in general we have to understand that in space, in a planar space or Cartesian planar space, we have 3 degrees of freedom, right? Degrees of freedom basically means number of ways in which a motion can be changed. Okay. So we have 3 different types of motion possible in a planar system. That those different types are translation. We have a translation in the horizontal direction. We can have a translation in the vertical direction. We can have a translation in the vertical direction, and we can have a rotation about this axis, right? Rotation about this axis. We can have rotation like this. This is also a planar motion, right? We are studying planar mechanisms. So this rotation is there, this translation is there, this translation is also there. So we have basically 3 independent ways in which a link can change its configuration, right? a link can change its configuration in three different ways. How? One is this translation, one is this translation, and one is rotation about this axis, right? This rotation. Okay, so there are basically three independent ways in which a link can change its state of motion, right? It's change its configuration basically. So we have basically 3 degrees of freedom. If a rigid body is kept in a plane, let's say like this, a rigid body is kept, or a link is kept like this in a plane, it has 3 degrees of freedom. Okay, so once two rigid bodies like this, two links are connected like this with a revolute pair, okay, with a revolute pair, the only type of motion possible is this rotation. The only type of motion is possible, the relative motion between these two is possible, is the rotation, right? Is the rotation, right? So basically two of these 3 degrees of freedom, there were initially 3 degrees, right? So of these 3 degrees of freedom, 2 of them has been curtailed, right? And one is only remaining, one is free. So that one is the rotation degrees of freedom, right? That one is the rotation degree of freedom. Okay. So for kinematic analysis, let's say for kinematic analysis, so we take one line like this. We take one line. So the relative angular position, this theta, okay, this relative angular position will determine all the quantities. We can determine all the quantities like velocities, acceleration, position based on this relative theta quantity, right? So theta is the only variable over here. In this case, theta is the only variable over here. So this is also the degree of freedom. This is also the degree of freedom. This theta is also the degree of freedom. So this variable theta is called as the joint variable. Okay, this is what we call as the joint variable. This is what we call as the joint variable. So this is one type of lower pair, okay, denoted by R. It has 1 degree of freedom, and the joint variable is theta. Okay, the joint variable is the theta. Fine. So next type of lower pair, we have prismatic pair. We have what we call as a prismatic pair. So this is denoted by P. This is denoted by P. Okay, this is denoted by P. So what is a prismatic pair? Let's say we have a plane. Let's say we have a plane like this. Okay, let's say we have a plane like this. Let's say we have a plane like this, and we have a body like this. Let's say this is one of our rigid body. Okay, this is one of our rigid body. So this rigid body, let's say in a plane, let's say we don't allow it to rotate. Okay, we don't allow it to rotate. So it has only initially it has 3 degrees of freedom, right? Now if we stop the rotation, this rotation is stopped, then there are 2 degrees of freedom remaining, one like this, translation, and one like this, right? Translation, right? In a single plane. Okay, in a single plane. Okay, one like this and one like this. Okay, so now instead we also curtail any one of the translations. Okay, any one of the translation. That means let's say we consider this plane. We keep this block. Let's say it is something like this. A block is kept in this plane, right? A block is kept in this plane, and it is not allowed to move in this direction. This is out of the plane. Okay, this is out of the plane. This block can move. It is not allowed to move in this direction. It is not allowed to move in this direction. It cannot rotate also. It can move only in this direction. So it has only 1 degree of freedom. It has only 1 degree of freedom. Okay. So this is our plane. This is our plane, and this block is kept like this. This motion is curtailed. This motion is curtailed. This motion is also curtailed. Okay. It can move only in this direction, right? Only in this direction. So in this case, this is what we call as a prismatic pair. If a block can only slide along in a particular plane, it can only slide in a particular direction, we will call this as a prismatic pair. Okay. So joint variable is nothing but the displacement. But displacement in this direction is the only joint variable over here. Okay. So 1 degree of freedom. Displacement is the joint variable. Okay. We will see the importance of these things, these quantities, these degrees of freedom. We will see the importance of this. Okay. So the next is the prismatic pair. These are two of the most important things. These are 2 of the most important pairs that we will be mostly encountering in our course. Okay. These are the most two important types of lower pair systems that we will be encountering. Okay, see here also we have a area contact, right? Here also we have a area contact. So this is a lower pair. So now let's see the third type. The third type is the screw pair. Okay, so screw pair, this is represented by H. H means a helix. Okay, a screw will have a helical turns, so this is represented by H. Okay, so this is represented by H. So how does a screw look like? Let's say we have a screw like this. Okay, we have a screw like this, and we will have a rotating system like this. Okay, so if we give a rotation to this screw like this, it will advance, right? So basically the screw can be, if this is the screw, if we give a rotation like this, it will advance, right? Advance forward, right? So this is the characteristic of a screw. If we give a rotation like this, the screw will advance forward, right? So basically there are two things. One is the out of the plane rotation. Okay, so this is a out of the plane rotation, and this is advancement in this plane, right? So now let's simplify it. I'll give a simple description. So let's say this is our screw. This is our screw. Okay. Let's say this is our screw. The advancement of the screw will be in this direction, right? The advancement of the screw will be in this direction, right? Advancement of the screw. But the rotation axis is like this instead of like this, right? The rotation axis, if this is our plane, the advancement is in this direction, right? But the rotation axis is this. Okay, the rotation axis is this, right? Which is out of the plane rotation. This is the rotation like this, which is out of the plane. So this screw is moving out. Rotate like this screw has to move out of the plane, right? Move out of the plane. So this is basically a type of this used in spatial mechanisms. This type of things are used in spatial mechanisms. Okay, in planar mechanisms, if we use, we will discard this rotation. Okay, we will discard this rotation. This rotation will be an external quantity. We will consider only the sliding effect. Okay, we will see few examples where this screw pair will be used. Okay, so it has basically two things: one rotation and one translation, right? But these two things are not independent of each other. They are dependent of each other, right? How? It is based on this pitch. It is based on the pitch of the screw. It is based on the pitch. In one rotation, how much distance it arises. In one rotation, distance traveled. This is called as pitch, right? This is called as the pitch. Okay, so how much we rotate, this advancement is dependent on how much we rotate, right? So these two quantities are not independent, right? So basically this screw pair has only 1 degree of freedom. Okay, it has only 1 degree of freedom. So this 1 degree of freedom can be either out of the plane rotation theta or the displacement. We can choose any one of them. So it has only 1 degree of freedom. Okay. So people get confused in this screw pair, rotation and translation both. So basically this rotation and translation are not independent. It has only 1 degree of freedom, either theta, the rotation, or the displacement. Okay. So this is another type of screw pair. This is another type of lower pair. So then we have what we call as a cylindrical pair. Cylindrical pair. Okay, so a cylindrical pair is denoted by C. Cylindrical pair is denoted by C. So in general, an object has 3 degrees of freedom in a planar motion. Okay, so if let's say we have a block like this and we have a cylinder like this. Okay, so once this cylinder is inside this block, so this block is fixed, let's say. Initially, if this block would not have been there, the cylinder would have 3 degrees of freedom. Once this cylinder is inside this, what can happen is that this cylinder can have a translatory motion like this, right? It can have a translatory motion like this, right? It can have a translatory motion like this. It can have a translatory motion like this, right? So there is 1 degree of freedom. Furthermore, the cylinder can also rotate like this, right? There can also be rotation like this, rotation about this axis, right? This rotation. So it can rotate like this, right? It can translate in this direction. Also it can rotate like this, right? It can also rotate like this. It can translate and it can also rotate, right? So basically it has 2 degrees of freedom. Okay, 2 degrees of freedom. Okay, so what are those 2 degrees of freedom? It is the displacement, the joint variables basically. It is the displacement and the theta. Here it was or, here it is and. Okay, in a screw pair this theta and s are not independent. In cylindrical pair this is independent, right? We can independently rotate and we can independently translate it. Okay, so it has basically 2 degrees of freedom. So now let's see the next type. So next type is what we call as the spherical pair. This is denoted by S. So the spherical pair is denoted by S. So now let's understand what do we mean by spherical pair. Let's say we have a link like this, and we have a spherical ball attached over here. Okay, we have a spherical ball attached over here, and it is inside, and this is kept inside some box. Let's say some box is like this. We have some box like this. Okay, we have some box like this. So what will happen is that because of this ball, this link can have 3 different types of rotation only, right? This link cannot translate, right? This link cannot translate. So only possibilities are that this link can have 3 different rotations only, right? So it can have 3 different rotations, independent rotations. So this is basically a 3 degree of freedom system. This is basically a 3 degree of freedom system. So what are the rotations? Rotation about x-axis, the rotation about y-axis, and the rotation about z-axis. These are our joint variables. Okay, it has 3 degrees of freedom and it has 3 joint variables. So number of joint variables will always equal to the number of degrees of freedom. Okay, number of joint variables will always equal the number of degrees of freedom. So this is basically encountered mostly in spatial mechanisms. So we will not see this type of, in general we will not encounter this type of pairs. Okay, so the final one is we have flat pair. We have what we call as flat pair. Okay, this is denoted by F. Okay, so what is a flat pair? A flat pair is something like this. A flat pair is, let's say we have a block like this resting on a plane. So this plane is fixed Okay, this plane is fixed. So what can happen is that if we consider an axis like this, okay, so this block can have a translation in this axis along this direction, right? This block can have a translation like this. This block can have a translation also like this along this plane. This is the plane, right? This is our plane. So the block can translate like this, the block can translate like this, right? The block can translate like this, it can also translate like this, right? So these are the 2 degrees of freedom, and also it can rotate about this axis. It can also rotate about this axis, okay? It can also rotate. So it has basically 3 degrees of freedom. 3 degrees of freedom. And the joint variables are displacement along the x direction, displacement along y direction, and theta along z direction, right? Rotation about this z axis, okay? So these are the 3 joint variables. So these are the classifications for the lower pairs. Now we will see some classifications for higher pairs. So there are different types of higher pairs possible. So we will see very few of them which we will frequently encounter, okay? So types of higher pairs. In higher pairs, okay, so we have basically number 1 a cam pair, okay, cam follower pair, okay, cam follower pair. Cam follower pair. So a cam follower pair will be something like this. Let's say we have a follower and we have some cam like this. So there, as you can see, here we have one point contact, right? Here we have one point contact, okay? So here we have one point contact. So this is what we call as a higher pair, okay? So this is what we call as higher pair. So in this type of pair, how many degrees of freedom are curtailed? So only this type of this translation is not allowed, right? This link can move in this direction, and this link can rotate, right? This link can rotate. So basically, only 1 degree of freedom has been curtailed, right? So this is basically a cam pair. Okay. So this can have a rotation, and this can move in the upward. Okay, so this is a cam pair. This is a type of higher pair. We have a point contact over here, so this is the type of higher pair. Okay, so then we will also have some gear pair. We can have some gear pair. Okay, so we can have some gear pair, and we can also have some rolling pair. Okay, we will have some rolling pair. Okay. So rolling pair is something like this: a disc rolling on this, right? A disc which is rolling like this. So this is the disc. So at this point we have the point of contact, which is a line contact, right? This is the disc will have some certain thickness, so we will have a line contact. Basically here also we will have a line contact, because this cam will also have a thickness, so we will have a line contact. Okay. So but for a plane case, if we consider only the section, only the plane, so we have a point contact. Here also we have a point contact. Okay. Here also we have a point contact. So this is also a type of higher pair. Okay. So these are few different types of higher pairs. There are enormous types of higher pairs encountered in real life. We will not go through all of those. Okay. So these are the frequently encountered higher pairs in our case. Okay. In most of our problems. Now let's understand what are the different types of joints. So in few moments earlier we have learned about what we call as the revolute pair, right? We have learned about revolute pair. Okay. we have learned about the revolute pair. So this is also called as a joint. Okay, this is also called as a pin joint. Okay, pin joint or hinge joint, okay, or joint. Okay, basically this can also be revolute pairs, or in general can be called as joints also. Fine. So now let's see what are the different types of joints possible. Okay, so types of joints. Okay, so types of joints. Number one is the binary joint. Okay, the first one is the binary joint. So a binary joint is nothing but if two links are connected by a single pin joint. Let's say we have two different links connected by a single pin joint. Okay, at a point we will call this as a binary joint. Okay. We have ternary joint. Okay, so the ternary joint is nothing but, let's say at a single point we have three different links. Okay, three different links are connected at a single point. Okay, using hinge joints. So this ternary joint is basically can be considered as equivalent to two different binary joints. A binary joint between this and this, and a binary joint between this and this. Okay, so this is basically equivalent to two binary joints. Okay, so a ternary joint is basically equivalent to two binary joints. For most of our kinematic analysis, this ternary joint can be considered as an equivalent to two binary joints. Okay, so a ternary joint has three different links connected at a single point. Okay, next we have quaternary joint. Next we have quaternary joint. Okay, so a quaternary joint is extension of this. If we have four different links, connected together, four different links connected at a single point, we will call this as a quaternary joint. Okay, this quaternary joint is equivalent to three binary joints. Okay, this quaternary joint is equivalent to three binary joints. Okay, so these are the different types of joints. So all these terminologies and classifications that we have understood or learned today, all these things are utilized to basically find out the degrees of freedom of a mechanism. Okay, this is the most important task. We are required to, before solving any problem, if we have a mechanism, we need to first know whether this mechanism will move or not. Okay, whether this mechanism will move or not. This information is very essential. It is for this information that we have learned all these different types of kinematic pairs, joints, links. Okay, it is for this it is to extract this information of movability. We need to know all these terminologies. Okay, we have to classify this. We will eventually see. Okay, so there is a special type of higher pair that we should know. One special type of higher pair which is called as a pin in a slot. In many problems we will encounter this kind of higher pairs. This is a pin in a slot. This is a higher pair. Okay, this is a higher pair. So what happens is that, let's say we have a slot like this. Okay, we have a slot like this, and we have a pin in between. Let's say we have a pin like this over here. Okay, this pin is a part of a link. So this pin is a part of a link. So what can happen is that if we keep this link held fixed, okay, then this pin can rotate. Okay, also this link as a whole can slide over here. okay, as a whole can slide over here. So basically what is this pin undergoing? This pin is undergoing a rolling motion. So when it rolls, it basically comes over here like this, and it also rotates about this axis. It also rotates. So basically it is rolling, okay. So there are two types of phenomena occurring over here, okay. One is the rotation relative to this link, rotation of this pin relative to this link, and translation with respect to this, okay, sliding with respect to this slot, okay. So this is basically a higher pair, okay. This is basically a higher pair. In case we are finding this difficult to understand, this can be equivalently replaced. This can be equivalently replaced by a slider, okay, okay, by a slider and a pin joint, okay, a slider and a pin joint. So there are these two links. We have two links over here. These two links have been replaced by three different links. You see, this is one of the link, this is another link, and this is another link, okay. So these two links has been replaced by three links, okay. So this pin in a slot, this type of higher pair can be equivalently written like this, okay. If we write like this or draw like this, then the relative motion remains the same. Relative motion between the other parts of the links remain the same. Also the forces also remain the same. So throughout analysis remain the same, okay. So we can replace this pin in a slot like this also, okay, for convenience of analysis, okay. This is one special type of higher pair. We will encounter this, okay. So now let's try to understand what is the mobility of a mechanism. What is the mobility of a mechanism? Okay, so mobility, it is also called as degrees of freedom, okay. So mobility of a mechanism. So let's consider one of the mechanisms, few mechanisms which we will encounter later on. Let's consider one of them. Let's say this is our mechanism. This is one frequently encountered mechanism, okay. So this is a frequently encountered mechanism. We will see this later on. We will learn about this mechanism later on. So what this whole, let's say this is inside a box, okay. So this whole box can be moved. That's a different thing. We are not bothered about it. What we mean by mobility is that considering this block fixed or this box fixed, okay, what are the relative motion that can occur? What is the relative motion between individual components that can occur is what we call as the mobility, okay, or the degrees of freedom. So there are two aspects to this definition, okay. The number of independent ways this relative motion can take place is called as a mobility, or the number of input variables required to produce a constrained output, okay. This is a more specific definition. Number of input motion required to produce an unique output motion, unique constrained output motion. Okay, so this is what we call as a specific definition of mobility, okay. So number of input motion, okay, what are the number of different types of input motion required to produce a unique output, okay, unique output. Number of different types of inputs given to produce a unique output is what we call as the mobility of a mechanism, okay. So we will try to find out what is the mobility of different types of mechanisms, okay. So we have understood the definition of mobility. Now we need to understand how to find out the mobility, okay. So before we find out the mobility, we need to understand one question. So why this mobility is required, okay. So let's say we are given an arbitrary assembly of rigid bodies or links. let's say we are given an arbitrary assembly of rigid links. We should know whether these links will have relative motion or not. Let's say we consider one such assembly like this. Okay, this is one assembly of rigid bodies, right? We have three different rigid bodies. This ground is one rigid body, this one is one rigid body, and this one is another rigid body. So if we apply some motion, if we try to apply some motion to this, whether there will be any relative motion or not, this is need to be known first, right? Then only we can go for further analysis. If there is no relative motion between these two links, then it is immaterial to study velocity, acceleration, and all this other stuff, right? It will then basically become a more stable type of structure. Okay, it is basically a structure. Okay, so we need to understand, if an arbitrary assembly of rigid bodies are given, we need to first know whether this assembly represents a mechanism or not. Okay, like here, this system does not represent a mechanism. We know that this is called as a truss. This is rather a structure, right? This is rather a structure. So we need to know whether an arbitrary assembly of rigid body gives us a mechanism, a structure, or something else. We need to know that first. Once we know that, then we can go for the velocity and acceleration or displacement type of analysis. Okay, fine. So this answers our question, why do we need to study mobility? So now let's study how to find out the mobility of a structure. For that we have what we call as the Groebeler's criterion. Okay, find out the mobility of a structure, mobility of a mechanism. We have the Groebeler's criterion. Okay, so let's say we will represent the mobility by capital M. Okay, we will represent the mobility by capital M. Okay, so let's say if we have n number of rigid bodies connected together, let's say we have small n number of rigid bodies connected together, fine. So if we have small n number of rigid bodies connected together, so each of the rigid bodies will have 3 degrees of freedom. Okay, so n number of rigid bodies will have 3n degrees of freedom. Okay, if we have n number of links, we have n number of links, each link has 3 degrees of freedom, so n links will have 3n degrees of freedom, right? So it is very essential that when we study mechanism analysis, one of the links has to be fixed, right? One of the links has to be considered as the frame, which will not move. Okay, which will not move, or rather we will consider it as a frame with respect to which the other parts of the mechanism will move, right? One part has to be considered as a reference. Okay, one of the rigid body has to be considered as a reference. Okay, so that rigid body, let's say if it does not move, so there has to be 3 degrees of freedom which needs to be subtracted. Let's say consider this system. Consider this system. So we have 3 rigid bodies connected together. Okay, we have 3 different rigid bodies like this and this. Okay, 3 different rigid bodies connected together. Okay, so now if we want to study the motion of the other, we will take, let's say this one is our frame. Okay, this one is our frame. Okay, now if this is considered as our frame or the reference rigid body, we will study the motion of other links with respect to this link. Okay, so in most of the cases, one of the link will be completely fixed. Let's say in this case we fix this link. So this link is completely fixed, right? So all the 3 degrees of freedom has been curtailed. So 3n minus 1 are the remaining degrees of freedom. Right? Now if these 2 rigid bodies are connected by, let's say, some lower pairs, a lower pair curtails 2 degrees of freedom mostly. Okay, in a planar motion. Okay, there are 2 types of lower pairs we have seen, the revolute and the prismatic. The others, we have also seen the other types of lower pairs, but those will not be encountered in a planar mechanism. Okay, in a planar mechanism we can have only 2 types of lower pairs. One is the revolute pair and another is the prismatic pair. Okay, so if these 2 rigid bodies are connected by any of those 2 pairs, so each of the pair contains 2 degrees of freedom, right? It basically subtracts 2 degrees of freedom. Okay, so if this is the total number of degrees of freedom for a n-link mechanism, So for each of the lower pair, we will have 2 degree of freedom subtracted. Okay, for each of them we will have 2 degree of freedom subtracted. Okay, so now if we have, let's say, j number of lower pairs. Okay, j number of lower pairs or joints, let's say. Okay, if we have j number of lower pairs, each subtracts 2 degrees of freedom. So j number of pairs will subtract 2j degrees of freedom. Okay, each of the lower pairs subtracts 2 degrees of freedom. So there are j number of lower pairs. Okay, so the total degree of freedom subtracted will be 2j. Okay, so 3n minus 1. So this part, this 2j had to be subtracted from 3n minus 1. So 3 times of n minus 1 minus 2j. Okay. Okay. Now if we have higher pairs also in the mechanism, if we have higher pairs also, so most of the higher pairs will curtail 1 degree of freedom. Okay. So if we have h number of higher pairs, so subtracted by from h. Okay. If we have h number of higher pairs, so h number of degrees of freedom has to be subtracted. Okay. So this is what we call as the Gruybler's criterion. This is what we call as the Gruybler's criterion. Okay. So this is what we call as the Gruybler's criterion. So n is the number of links. J is the number of joints or lower pairs. Okay. J is the number of joints or lower pairs, and H is the number of higher pairs. Okay. H is the number of higher pairs. So it is very essential that once we see a mechanism, it is very essential for us to understand and identify which are the lower pairs, which are the higher pairs, and what are the different types of links. Then, because we have to identify the number of links, right? We have to identify the number of links, we have to identify the types of joints. All these identification is essential to find out basically the mobility of a structure or a mechanism. Okay. So now let's try to use this to solve few problems. So let's consider the structure that we have considered right now. So this is a pin joint. Okay, so this is the structure that we have considered right now. So we know that this will not have any relative motion. So let's find it out from the Gruybler's criterion. So for any type of mechanism analysis, the ground frame will always be numbered as 1. Okay, so this will be considered as the first link. Okay, this will always be considered as the first link. So this will become easier for us. Okay, this is link number 1, this is link number 2, this is link number 3. Okay, so the different links are nothing but the number of rigid bodies in a mechanism, right? Number of rigid bodies in a mechanism. So we have 3 different rigid bodies, this one and this one. Okay, we have 3 different rigid bodies, we have 3 different links. Okay, so we have three links. So n is equals to 3. Okay, n is equals to 3. Now we have to identify that this is the pin joint, right? So this is a pin joint, this is a kinematic pair. Okay, it is a lower pair and it is a revolute pair, right? It is a revolute pair. This is another pin joint. Okay, so we have 2 pin joints, 2 revolute pairs. This is another pin joint. So we have 3 revolute pairs. Okay, we have 3 revolute pairs, 3 revolute pairs or 3 lower pairs, right? So from the Gruybler's criterion, m is equals to 3 times of 3 minus 3 links are there, one of them is fixed. There are 3 links, one of them is fixed, right? That's why n minus 1. If none of the links are fixed, then this minus will not be there. Okay, but here we have one link as fixed, right? So this 3 minus 1 minus 2 times of how many lower pairs are there or revolute pairs? 1, 2, 3, right? So multiplied with 3. So we see that m is equals to 0. Okay. So we see that the mobility of the structure is coming out to be 0. Fine. So that means the mobility of this system is coming out to be 0. That means this system is nothing but a structure. Okay, this system is nothing but a structure. Whenever the mobility of a system is 0, we will call this as a structure. Okay, if the mobility of a system is 0, we will call this as a structure. Okay. Now let's try to find out the mobility of few simple mechanisms. Let's consider this. Okay, we have 4 different rigid bodies. This is one, this is one, this is one, and this is one. Okay, so we have 4 different rigid bodies. Okay, connected by 4 revolute pairs. So this is what we call as a 4R mechanism. 4R means 4 revolute pair mechanism. This is what we call as a 4R mechanism. Okay, 4 revolute pair mechanism. So let's try to find out the degrees of freedom. Let's say, so we have mobility as 3 times of how many links are there? We will number it as 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. Okay, so we have 4 links. Of the 4 links, 1 is fixed. 4 minus 1 minus. Now how many lower pairs are there? We have 1 lower pair here, revolute pair, 1 revolute pair, revolute pair, revolute pair. So we have 4 different revolute pairs, right? So 2 into 4, right? 9 minus 8, this is equals to 1. Okay, so that means the mobility of this mechanism is 1. Okay, this implies that if we give any one of this link, if we give any one of this link a unique motion, the other links will execute unique output motions. Okay, that means if we give motion to this link, let's say, let's suppose a unique motion of this link. Okay, only one link is given externally moved by us. Okay, we are moving externally, giving some energy or force. We are externally trying to move this link. So when we try to move this link, these links will simultaneously move and it will give a unique output motion. Okay, this mobility equals to 1 means only one of them is given as an input link. Okay, and this will give us a unique output. Fine. So now let's try to find out the mobility of something else. Let's consider this. Okay, so now let's try to find out the mobility of this system. Okay, so basically in strength of materials we have solved these kind of structures, right? Like if we apply some force over here, what are the forces in individual members? This type of problem we have solved in strength of materials. Okay, so we know that this structure is basically statically indeterminate. Like if we apply force over here, by using statics we cannot find out the forces in individual members. This we are already aware of, right? Let's see now what happens. Now what information this Grobler's criterion gives us. Let's see. So we have basically this ground link is 1, link number 1. We have 2, we have 3, we have 4. So we have basically 4 links, right? We have basically 4 links. Now we need to identify what are the different types of lower pairs available over here. We have 1, we have 2, 3, right? 3 lower pairs are there, right? Now here, now you see here at a single point we have 3 different links connected, right? So this is not a simple binary joint, right? We have learned about ternary joint. So this is a ternary joint. So a ternary joint is equivalent to 2 different binary joints. Okay, so we have how many lower pairs now? How many joints now? 1, 2, 3. And here this ternary joint is equivalent to 2 binary joints, right? So 3 plus 2 is 5 binary joints. So basically we have J is equals to 5. So this identification is important. How to identify binary joint, how to identify ternary joint. Okay, so this is a ternary joint. This is a binary joint. This is a binary joint. This is also a binary joint. Okay, but this is a ternary joint. Okay, so we have total number of lower pairs as 5. Okay, so from Bredlo's criterion we get, what do we get? 3 times of 4. One of the link is fixed, -1 -2 into 5, right? So we get 9 minus 10. We get it as -1. Okay, so we see that the degrees of freedom is coming out to be -1, right? We see that the mobility of the structure is coming out to be -1. Mobility of the system is coming out to be -1. Okay, why this is coming out? This is because this is not a mechanism, it's rather a structure which is indeterminate. Okay, so if mobility of a structure comes out to be negative, then we will call this as a superstructure. Okay, if the mobility of any system comes out to be negative, we will call this as a superstructure. Okay, you see, in strength of materials we have seen that this is statically indeterminate, and here we are finding out the mobility to be negative. Okay, so in most of the statically indeterminate structures, mobility will be negative. Okay, this is an important conclusion. In most of the statically indeterminate trusses, mobility will be negative. Okay, so now let's try to solve more problems. So let's consider this as a mechanism. Okay, so this is a mechanism, so we are required to find out the mobility. Let's try to find out the mobility. Okay, so we have this ground, so this ground will be considered as link number 1. Ground will be considered as link number 1. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Now we identify that this is a binary link, this is a binary link, but you see here this is connected to 3 different rigid bodies, right? This link is connected to 3 different rigid bodies. So this is not a binary link, this is rather a ternary link. In the earlier problem we had ternary joint. Here we have, these joints are binary joints only. This is binary joint, this is binary joint. All the joints are binary joints, but this link is a ternary link. Okay, this link is a ternary link. So this is number 5 and this is number 6. Okay, okay, so we have n equals to 6. This is a 6 link system. Okay, what are the number of joints or lower pairs? How many lower pairs do we have? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We have 7. Fine. So simply we have m equals to 6 minus 1 minus 2 into 7. Okay, 5, 3, 15 minus 14, this is 1. Okay, so this is a simple. So if we rotate this only, we will get unique motions of the other links. Okay, this is the mobility of the mechanism. So let's try to find out the mobility of another one. So this is another mechanism we are required to find out the mobility. So you see, so this is our ground frame 1. This ground, throughout this ground frame is considered as 1, frame 1. This is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, and this slider is considered as 6. So here also we have 6 link mechanism. Okay, and how many joints are there, lower pairs are there? You see, we have 1, 2, 3, right? So this is the binary link, right? This is a binary link connected to 2 links only. So this is a binary link. Fine. So we have 1, 2, 3, pin joint 1, 4, prismatic 1, 5, and this is equivalent to 2 binary joints, right? This is a ternary joint, so equivalent to 2 binary joints. Okay, so we have joints is equals to 7, right? Joints equals to 7, which is similar to this. So again we will get mobility equal to 1. Okay, again we will get mobility equal to 1. Okay, so many authors, in many books, many authors, this Grobler's criterion is also mentioned as a Kutzbach criterion. Okay? This Grobler's criterion is also called as a Kutzbach criterion. Okay. Many times this Grobler's criterion is also called as Kutzbach criterion. Fine. Now let's try to solve some more involved problems. Okay, so we are required to find out the mobility of this system. Okay, so let's see. So this is a ground frame. So this is a ground frame. We have one. This is one of our first link. Okay, this is one second link. This is another link, which is third link, and this is the basically ternary link, right? It is connected to 3 different links. This is one link. This is one link. This is one link. So this link 3 is a ternary link. Okay, link 3 is a ternary link. Now let's consider this. This is link number 4. This is link number 4. In fact, this is also a ternary link. It is connected to 3. This link number 4 is connected to link 3, link 5, and link 1, right? So this is also a ternary link. Okay, and this is link number 5. Okay, all of them are binary joints. This is a pin in a slot pair, right? We have discussed about this. This is a pin in a slot pair. Okay, so this is a pin in a slot pair. Fine. So let's try to find out the mobility. So n is equals to 5. We have found out. We have 5 rigid bodies. So how many lower pairs are there? this is for 1, this is another 2, this is another 3, 4, 5, right? So we have 5 lower pairs. Okay, this is a higher pair. This is a higher pair we have discussed. This is a higher pair. Okay, so basically we have m is equals to 5 minus 1 minus 2 times of 5 minus 1. Okay, we get 5 minus 1 4 3 12 minus 10 minus 1. We get this is equals to 1. Okay, in case if we want to replace this pin joint, this pin in a slot, by a piston and a slider, by a piston or sorry, a slider or a movable pin joint, let's see. The same system can be equivalently written like this. Okay, now if we replace this system by this, then what happens? Then what happens? We do not have any higher pairs, right? Higher pairs are 0, but number of links changes, right? We have 1, 2, 3, slider will be another one, 4, this is 5, this is 6. In this case this will become 6. Okay, and number of joints, lower pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This slider and this link connected, this is another one, 6, and slider with sliding with respect to 7, right? So this is 7. How? Slider sliding with this one prismatic pair, and slider connected to link 4, one revolute pair, right? So here we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 joints. Let's see. Okay, 6 minus 1, 5, 5, 3, 15. Okay, okay. So this also gives the same type of mobility, and also the kinematic movement will also be remaining same. We will see later on. Okay. Let's consider one problem where we have a screw pair. So we have a table like this. There is again a pin in a slot. Again a pin in a slot. So we have a pin like this. We have a pin like this. And this there is a okay, we have another over here. Okay, this is a slider. This slider is inside, is enclosing a screw type. Screw, right? The slider is enclosing a screw. Okay, so here also there is a joint. So this is basically the mechanism. Okay, this type of mechanisms are used to lift objects. That means we rotate this thing is rotated out of the plane, this thing is rotated, and this slider will, once this rotates, this, because of the screw pair, it will advance, right? This slider will advance. Once this slider advances, this link will rotate like this. It rotates, so this will also rotate, so this system will move up. Okay, once this slider starts moving like this, this system will move up. Okay, so this is the type of lifting mechanism. This is the type of lifting mechanism. So let's try to find out the mobility. Okay. So we have number of links. Number of links is ground link is 1. This slider is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. Right? So we have 5. 1. Slider is 2. This link is 3. This link is 4. This link is 5. Okay. So we have 5 links. What are the number of lower pairs? Screw is a lower pair, which will have only 1 degree of freedom. Right? We have discussed. It have only 1 degree of freedom. This is external. This is external. We will not consider this. We will consider only this motion. Okay. So we have only 1 degree of freedom. Okay. 1 degree of freedom. Okay. So one pair over here. One screw pair. 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. Right. So we have 5. Okay. And we have one higher pair. We have one higher pair. Okay. So the mobility becomes 5 minus 1 minus 2 into 5 minus 1. 12 minus 10 minus 1, right? We have 1. Okay. So we need only one input to move this motion, as is evident. We rotate this screw. We rotate this screw like this. This slider will advance and this system will move up. Okay. So this is one of the important mechanism. Okay. Now let's consider some exceptions in the Graveler's criterion. Let's learn about some exceptions. There are certain exceptions. Okay. If we consider the Graveler's criterion, in the Graveler's criterion there is no mention of the link lengths, right? There is no mention of the lengths of each of the link. That's why, let's say if we consider this system, okay, if we consider this system, let's try to find out the mobility. So this is link 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We have 5 links. Joints are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So M equals to 3 into 4 minus 2 into 6, right? So we get mobility to be 0. We get the mobility to be 0. Okay. But in actual, this system still has a motion. Okay. This system can move. Why? Because this Graveler's criterion does not take any length into account. So this is one of the exception type of mechanism. This link can move, and this is called as a parallelogram mechanism. Okay. So this whole link lengths are same. So this link number 4, this 4 is basically a redundant link. There is no use of this link. Okay, it is given only for stability type of systems. Stability. Otherwise, it does not have any important issue over here. It can still move like a 4 revolute pair mechanism. This system can still move. Okay, and it has a degree of freedom of 1. Okay, it has a mobility of 1. Okay, it has a mobility of 1. So please remember this. This question has appeared several times in GATE. This system has a mobility of 1. Okay, but from Graveler's criterion we get 0, which is not correct. Okay. There are other exceptions also. Okay, there are other exceptions also. Let's say now let's consider this mechanism. So this is a can follower type of mechanism. Can follower type of mechanism. Okay. So we have, this is ground link 1. This is link number 2. This roller is link number 3, and this 4. Okay. So let's try to find out what is the degree of freedom or mobility of this. 3 into 4 minus 1, right? 3 minus 2 times of, how many lower pairs are there? 1, 2, 3, right? 3 lower pairs are there. How many higher pairs are there? There is only one higher pair, right? So what do we get? 9 minus 6 minus 7. 9 minus 7 is 2. So we see that the mobility comes out to be 2. Okay, mobility is coming out to be 2. Okay, that means two inputs are required to move this system, which is not correct. So this is another exception. Why? Because you see, this disc, if we rotate it about its own axis, if we keep on rotating this disc about its own axis, nothing changes in the mechanism, right? There is no other relative motion. If only disc rotates, there is no other relative motion of the system. Okay, so that means this degree of freedom is redundant. This degree of freedom is not causing any trouble in the mechanism or any change in the mechanism. Okay, so this is what we call as a ideal degree of freedom. Okay, this is what we call as a ideal degree of freedom. So in many type of mechanisms, an ideal degree of freedom might be there, might be present. In such a case, Brouillard criterion is modified. Okay, if there is any ideal degrees of freedom, Brouillard criterion is modified like this. Minus 2j minus h minus the ideal degrees of freedom, right? Ideal degrees of freedom. Okay, so if there is any ideal degree of freedom in a mechanism, we will subtract that ideal degree of freedom because it does not play any role in the mechanism kinematics. Okay, we will subtract that, and the Brouillard's criterion is modified like this. This is what we call as the modified Brouillard's criterion. So this ideal degree of freedom is subtracted from this to get the mobility, actual mobility. Now you see, if we subtract the ideal degree of freedom, this I, we have only one ideal degree of freedom, this rotation. So we subtract this. Okay, so this is our correct answer. Okay, this is our correct answer. Let's try to solve another problem. This is a pin in a slot, and this is inside a circular disc. This is the center. So this is becoming somewhat cumbersome. So this is the center actually. This plus signifies the center. Okay. We have another. Okay. So we are required to find out the mobility of this system. Okay, so let's see. So how many links are there in this system? How many links are there? So this is ground link 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We have 7 links. We have 7 links. Okay, 1 ground, this is 2, this is a ternary link 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now let's try to find out the number of lower pairs. We have one prismatic pair, one revolute pair, so 2, this is 1, 3, okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So 7 lower pairs. 7 lower pairs. Okay, how many higher pairs are there? This is one of the higher pair, this is another higher pair, right? So 2 higher pairs. How? This pin in a slot is one higher pair, and this wheel, this disc in contact with ground. Okay, this is a rolling motion, this is another higher pair, so we have 2. Okay, okay, is there anything else? Now you see, if we keep this disc constant, this held like this, and if we try to move this portion, the lower portion, if we try to move this lower portion can still move, right? This lower portion can still move. If we slide this lower portion can move, but this will be held constant. This part will be held constant. Okay, so if we fix this disc through the center, if you hold this and try to move this lower part will move, but the upper part will not move. Okay, that means this is not moving the complete system. So this is one redundant degree of freedom. Okay, or an ideal degree of freedom. So there is one ideal degree of freedom. Okay, so there is one ideal degree of freedom that we have found out. Okay, so the total mobility is 1 minus 2 into 7 minus higher pairs minus ideal degrees of freedom. Okay, 18 minus 14 minus 2. So we have 1 degree. Okay, so the mobility of the system is 1. Okay, so today we have, in this today's lectures, we have learned about different types of mechanisms. We have learned about the different types of studies in theory of machine that we will be undergoing. We have learned about the different types of links, different types of joints, then kinematic pairs, and how to find out the mobility of a mechanism. We have learned in this. In the next lecture onwards, we will learn about more about the different types of mechanisms. Okay, and their advantages, disadvantages. Okay, with this I would like to end today's lecture. Thank you.